Venezuela, where movements and ministers continue meetings discussing concrete climate change proposals. For what agreements they might reach, we go to our correspondent Rachel Boothroyd.
But for the environmental activists gathered here in Margarita, Venezuela for the world's first social pre-COP, the proposals on this page represent an opportunity to shake up the United Nations debates on climate change. Coordinated by the government of Venezuela, the Social Pre-COP is a summit to bring together the proposals of social movements and NGOs from across the globe on how to tackle this pressing environmental issue. It's a prelude to the United Nations Conference of the Parties, due to be held this December in Peru, an event historically interests.
For the first time in the history of the United Nations, there will be a dialogue between the representatives of the social movements of the world and the ministers of 47 countries who represent the United Nations and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Slowly but surely, the people's voice on climate change is starting to break through. Later this week, these 47 ministers from across the globe will gather in Margarita to hear the finalised proposals, which will also be discussed in December's Conference of the Parties. For many, it's a historic moment and the culmination of months, if not years, of work.
But also this meeting here in Margarita in Venezuela, it's including social movements. People are impacted by climate change. It's not a meeting of bureaucrats and civil servants. It's actually a space for us to organise, to give demands to governments to say what's important.
The Social Pre-COP comes just days after the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report confirming that time is running out to save the planet from irreparable environmental damage. Despite the bleak diagnosis, social movements here say that the solutions to climate change already exist. For them, the challenge is a political one, to make governments sit up and listen to the people and not to powerful global economic interests.
What we are demanding, system change, is not what's coming out of the negotiations. When we talk about needing a binding commitment from all governments in the north, in the south, to the kind of changes that need to take place, that's not now being discussed in the negotiations. What the negotiators are looking toward is some kind of voluntary commitments for maybe thinking about reducing the kind of CO2 emissions that are possible. And as movements, we're here to say that's not enough.
On Thursday, the movement's message to UN ministers will be clear: act now or risk losing the opportunity to act at all. With a new global treaty set to be adopted in 2015, which will define the world's approach to tackling climate change over coming decades, social movements are saying that it's now more vital than ever that their voices are heard, a process which will begin this Thursday in Margarita, Venezuela. I'm Rachel Boothroyd, reporting for Telesur from Margarita, Venezuela.